If you have not heard about the term blockchain, then you're probably not in 2017. Let's see what is blockchain and why everyone is talking about it. Let's get started.
Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss any update from Tech Primers.
If you have heard about the recent boom of the bitcoins, you would have probably heard about the term blockchain. And everyone is talking about bitcoins because it is like the digital gold. Let's see what is blockchain, the underlying technology under the bitcoin. So what is blockchain? So blockchain is basically a distributed ledger technology which is used for the bitcoins for transaction. So we are going to see what is a distributed ledger. We will also see what is a ledger to understand the distributed ledger in a much better sense, right? So blockchain is also a peer-to-peer network. So it is basically a group of computers connected in the network. So basically the internet. So we will see how these are connected and why these are connected and why these are need to be connected. What do blockchain do? So they record transactions between two different parties and then they verify them, and they do also have the security checks. As a part of the verification, these security checks are validated to make sure that there is no intrusion which has occurred in one of the network in the blockchain. So once the data is verified, you cannot alter the data in a blockchain. So the most popular implementation of the blockchain is the Bitcoin, as you know. So what is a ledger, right? So ledger is nothing but a repository of all the transaction information which has happened in the system. So if you want to track a transaction which has happened in the system, you have a ledger which records all the transactions which has happened in the particular network or the system, which has consolidated everything and then entered in a single place, right? So let's say you have different downstreams. All these downstream push the information to the ledgers. So based on the ledger information, you can identify what type of information occurred or the what type of transaction occurred at some particular point. So ledger is nothing but a repository of all the transactions which are happened, right? How does blockchain leverage this? Blockchain uses the concept of distributed ledger. So what does distributed ledger mean, right? So if you have heard about the distributed computing or the distributed repositories, for example, Git in itself is a distributed repository. So you don't have a central copy, you have multiple copies of the same repository. So the distributed ledger is also something similar. You don't have a single ledger, you have multiple copies of the same ledger. So if you notice here, these are ledgers. So there are different ledgers, and how these ledgers work together. So they work together in the form of a distributed computing paradigm. So all these ledgers are interconnected, and if a transaction happens in the blockchain, every distributed ledger will get that information. So even if one particular ledger goes down, the other ledgers are there to give the transaction information or create the transaction information. So once a new ledger needs to be joining a particular group or the network, you can copy the exact repository from one of the ledger and then create a new ledger. So that is how the distributed ledger concept works. So in blockchain, it uses the concept of distributed ledger. So you can have n number of ledgers in this particular distributed network. You can have more or you can have less, it depends, right? So what does a block consist of? So in the blockchain world, so in the distributed ledger setup, right, so you will have lots of blocks which are chained together. So what are these blocks, right? So each block consists of the current transaction information. So for example, let's take a payment information, right? You're going to pay a particular person so and so amount of money. That information will be there in a block. Along with that, it will also consist the hash of the previous block. So hash is nothing but um, destined unique identification number created for a block. So imagine it as a unique number which cannot be altered for a block. So basically the block is nothing but a current transaction information. So it will have the transaction information, and that gets translated into a hash. So that is a constant a unique number or a unique character, you say, right? So that will be created for every block, and each block gets linked to each other using this hash. So you have linked to the previous hash. So let's say this is a block, right? So I have a block which is having a transaction which I want to send from A to B, which is $30. Then I am sending it from C to D for $50, right? This is a transaction block. Okay, along with that you have the hash of the previous block, right? So those two form a single block, and a transaction uniqueness ID is created, which is nothing but the hash. So this is nothing but the hash of this particular block. So the next block which is going to get created, it is going to use the hash of this particular block. So if you notice here, this is the new block which got created, and this is going to contain the hash of this particular block. So this is always unique. So if somebody tries to alter this particular block, this hash changes, and your subsequent blocks are altered, right? So there is no linking here. So if this particular hash changes, then this also will change, and there will be inconsistency or redundancy, right? So your blocks are now not in sync. So that is how blockchain eliminates the intruders. So if somebody tries to hack a system, they won't be able to do it unless they alter every block in that particular network, right? So every block in that particular whole blockchain. So let's go to the distributed diagram which we had, right? So imagine there is a block initiated from this particular ledger. So the same block will be pushed to all the ledgers, and all the ledgers will verify this information, saying, okay, do I have this much amount of money in A, and do I have this much amount of money in B? And once everybody verifies this transaction and their uniqueness and their links, the final money gets deducted um, from the destined account, right? So from the source or the destination, depends on what type of transaction it is. So that is how blockchain works. So Bitcoin leverages this concept and it takes it to a different extent, but we're not going to cover Bitcoin in this particular video. So this is what I wanted to cover. So what is a blockchain? So blockchain works on this concept of distributed ledger, and it uses blocks, and how these blocks are related are using the hashes, and how they are transacted using the peer-to-peer network. And every uh, ledger validates each blocks in that particular chain, and then it knows that, okay, this particular information is correct. If there are more than 50% of the ledgers who deny a particular transaction, then the whole transaction will be cancelled. So that particular block will be cancelled, right? So that is how Bitcoin or blockchain technology works, right? So where can we use blockchain? So first, as we said earlier, one typical example is the digital transaction, which is the Bitcoin. Blockchain is used there already. You can use it anywhere, literally. So which is having digitalization in their transaction. So for example, the payments information, the digital security information, clearing and settlement, trading information, supply chain management, gambling. You can use it for insurance. You can use it for digital voting. You can even use it in the medical field for the R&D. So that is how blockchain works, and this is why everyone is talking about blockchain. So I hope you understood what is blockchain. So blockchain is nothing but a technology concept which with which you can have secure transactions, and you don't have to have a central party to verify all your transactions, because what if the party goes down, right? So that is why you have a distributed ledger, and you have a distributed platform where everyone verifies everyone's transaction, and if there are problems, that particular transaction will be eliminated. So it is very difficult for an intruder to come and modify a block, because everybody verifies their each block, and there are links between each blocks, right? So that is why blockchain technology is powerful, and that is why everyone is talking about blockchain. I hope you got the basics of blockchain right. So that is all about blockchain. That's what I wanted to cover in this particular video. Let me know if you want me to cover in depth about Bitcoin or blockchain in the comment section below. I'll do that. Hope you guys understood what is blockchain. Hope that was useful. Meet you again in the next video. Thank you very much.